Hey there, how's it going? Welcome to another video of Design and Manage, where we are building the city of Leonor. In the last couple of videos we have started working on the area on the lower left corner that you see on your screen, and I think today it's finally time for us to start placing some buildings there. A quick recap on the structure of this area. This area is served by two main highways, which are this one over here, as well as this one, which both intersect on this massive stack interchange. This road that I'm highlighting with my mouse is going to be the main arterial or the main collector for this area, so this is where the majority of traffic will flow. So I think I'll want to condense the highest density of buildings next to this avenue, so around over here and also on this little side as well. And this area over here can be converted to low density. I think that's the main plan for the time being. I will be continuing the same pattern that I already have on this side of the map, or in other words on this side of the train station, which is currently disabled. I don't want both districts on either side of the train station to look like they're two completely different cities. I want them to look like they're part of the same city or part of the same region. Before starting the major work, I just want to let you know that I'm using a new texture pack for this city. It is called this thing, the Volchoria Map Theme Renewed. I think I'm gonna leave a link to it on the description of this video. But this is how the map looks like with the default texture pack, and this is how it looks like with the new texture pack. I particularly like the texture and the colors of the grass. The grass has these small pebbles and rocks, which I think makes it look much more interesting than the vanilla one. But anyway, with that said, let's start working. Okay, so I am done with this district. I have built it in one go, not only the buildings but also the vegetation and the detailing. So let's take a closer look at each individual thing. As I've mentioned, I wanted to make this entire thing mid-density, and I believe I have managed to do so. This is not super compact and condensed. It adds a lot of population to the city, and for the type of neighborhood that I want to create. You know, this entire region of the city is not supposed to be super high dense with skyscrapers and whatnot. It's more like a small city, as the bulk of the population or the downtown will be placed or will be built in another area. For this area, I'm particularly satisfied with the outcome, and I've managed to replicate what I had on this side of the map, which was achieved by using the same type of buildings. In this case, the majority of them are these North American row housing, and also the North American 2x4 mixed zoning. At the moment they look very repetitive because they'll look the same, but as soon as they start upgrading to higher levels, it will look much more diverse. We also have these roads with parking lots on the side, which I think they add some detailing, you know, they add some contrast to the normal roads. I didn't make every single road a road with parking lots, because I don't think that would look very realistic and that would take a lot of space here. So I'm happy with the final result. In these types of blocks, where the grid is not a perfect rectangle or a square, I have used pathways and also a combination of trees to create some custom parks that weave in between the buildings. And this type of thing improves walkability in the city, and it also makes it look more interesting by adding these open green spaces. So for example, this is one of those cases, and then we also have some other location here, and over here we even have a small gas station as well. This residential area is served by a couple of services. I have built yet another elementary school with 3 extension wings, and it's already filled because the city doesn't have a lot of schools. And I've also placed this city high school, which is a particularly tall building. At first I wasn't sure if it fit this area, but it's actually the same color as this North American mixed zoning 2x4s. Even though it's a significantly taller building, I think it fits the area nicely. Besides the schools, I've also added this small medical clinic and also this small post office to provide mailing service to this region. Then we also have some parks. Let me see if I can find one. Here it is. This one fits very nicely in between these buildings. And look at the variety of zoning that we have managed to achieve. It's super diverse. And we also have some parking lots, for example this one with solar panels right next to the high school. As we get closer to the train station, I start transitioning to commercial, and on this main avenue I have zoned some high density commercial which serve as large department stores where people can shop. Super accessible by train, which is currently disabled, but it will be enabled somewhere in the future. So I think this was a fitting location for these buildings. We also have a small plaza right in front of the train station, and also a parking lot and some other buildings. On this block to the left, I filled this block with residential, so houses for people to live. And it's quite peculiar because I've built this custom park with bushes using the line tool, and also some flower patches in the middle, even though everything's orange at the moment because it's currently fall and you cannot really distinguish the flowers, but you most likely got an idea during the time-lapse. And I really like the effect that this created, you know, putting these bushes in between the avenue and also the pathway. I think we can now start making a district for this new area, so let's work on that. Perfect, and now we can assign some operating districts for the services that we've built. I know that this elementary school is going to serve this district, and let's keep it this district only because it will probably serve some houses that will be built over here as well. The small post office is going to serve this entire area and also a little bit of the area on the left side of the train station as well, if it can reach there. The medical clinic will also just serve this area. No, same thing. And for the high school, I'm not gonna assign it an operating district for the time being because we have very little high schools and I need these to cover the entire city, at least for the time being. And speaking of high schools, the other high school that we have in the city is this one, and we never actually fully upgraded it, so let's take care of that right now. And this gives us some more vacancies for students. As we are working on districts, I think this is a good opportunity to work on this national park. A couple of videos ago I asked you guys to suggest a name for this park, which would be of course named after the king that is buried here. So on top of this park we have a grave, in this case a mausoleum, where supposedly an old king of the city was buried, like a lot of centuries ago. And I've already decided on a name for a king. The king that is buried here is called King Leopold. So I'm gonna rename this to King Leopold's tomb. And of course this natural park is gonna be called the Leopold Park. And I also think I'm gonna delete this district for the lake, because the lake is part of the park itself. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to have its own district. So I'm gonna delete it, and I'm simply gonna extend Leopold Park to cover this lake as well. I am satisfied with what we have achieved here, so I think I'm gonna continue the development of this road layout, and I'm gonna start filling these grids on this area over here. While I'm at it, I also think I'm gonna fill this area in between both sides of the railroad, you know, these currently empty areas. I do not want to leave them empty because it looks a bit awkward, so perhaps we can turn it into a park or extend some roads over here and create some buildings adjacent to the rails. We'll see what we can come up with. At the same time, I also need to add some pedestrian access between both districts. We do have a couple of roads like this one over here that goes into a tunnel, and also this one as well, but I want to add some shorter connections for people to walk in between the districts. I'm not really sure if this train station, when activated, can serve as a connecting point. I don't know if people can walk from one place to the other unless they're using the trains. It would be really cool if it did, but if it doesn't, it's no problem because I think I'm gonna add a couple of bridges here, so perhaps one over here and also another one on this side as well. We even have a small pedestrian pathway that extends all the way over here, so perhaps we can continue it and make a bridge or a underpass that will provide access here. In this area, I thought a little bit about it, and I think I'm gonna put a small, not a small, but a big radio tower, this telecom tower. This area doesn't have a lot of internet speed because all of the buildings are orange, even though people are not really complaining about it if I look at the city happiness status. But internet speed is not really great here, and it's only going to get worse as I place some more buildings. So I think this is a good place for it, right next to the railway. It does generate some noise pollution, but this is sufficiently far away from any urbanization so that it doesn't affect anyone. So yeah, perhaps we can even start with that. I think this might be the biggest urban development project this city has ever faced. A lot of stuff was built in this video and our population has grown like what, 20,000, something like that, which is immense. I have over 3 hours of footage to review and edit, and yeah, I just cannot wait for it. But hopefully I can get this video up on YouTube at a decent time. Let's review in more detail what was done in the time-lapse, and perhaps we can start on one end and finish on the other. So starting with this area, this is a mostly residential district, very similar to the one that we've built on the previous time-lapse on the other side of the park. Nothing particular to mention here. I tried to adapt the zoning to the curves of the layout. Of course, these shapes make it a lot harder, but with the strategic placement of trees and also parks, you can create some very interesting neighborhoods. Like this thing, for example, this is a custom park with some flowers and whatnot. In the same area, we also have a large playground on the back side of this building, which I think looks quite nice. And also another park on the opposite end of the road, or on the other side of the street. I have added yet another elementary school, and this school is gonna serve mostly this area, but also the low density neighborhoods that I'm gonna place here. I still need to figure out how I'm going to plan this area because I have an arterial here, but as I've mentioned on the past video, perhaps I can cut this end to the roundabout and isolate this area and transform it more into a suburban type housing area with much less traffic. On the collector road, I have placed some large department stores, similarly to what we've done previously. This building was actually a mistake. This was supposed to be low density and I've zoned high density by mistake, but I actually don't mind it. I think it contrasts with the skyline quite well, so I think we can keep this building here. And I've also placed this unique building. This is not a unique building, this is a signature building for commercial. This is something that I want to do more frequently. I want to start putting some more signature buildings as I unlock them, because they provide a lot of buffs for the city. The plus 1% in attractiveness is going to be particularly useful later on when we want to boost the tourism of the city. So this building is called the I18n pub. I suppose that's French. And it's supposedly a pub, and now that I'm looking at it, perhaps something like this should not be zoned directly on a collector road like this, because it's not on the same level or on the same traffic level as a department store. So maybe in the future I can place it more towards the inside of the district. As we move to the other side of the street, we have this small complex here. The central point is the telecom tower, as I've mentioned that I was going to do. And to complement it, we have a small industrial district. And I know what you're thinking right now. You're probably thinking that this is an industrial layout very, very close to a residential area. Well, not quite, because I have purposefully made this area really, really small. So all the buildings here are 3 blocks long. And the type of industrial building that spawns in such a small area are usually small warehouses or small factories. This is the type of building that you would realistically see like behind an apartment block or alongside a commercial store, for example. And as you've noticed already, we have no building with chimneys, polluting chimneys, which I think is the main requirement for an industrial building in this area. I've also placed a firehouse here. I thought that was a fitting location for it, and this firehouse serves this entire region. I have built an off-street that splits from the main collector and comes all the way over here alongside the natural park, and eventually extends towards this side of the avenue. And I still haven't decided what I'm gonna build here, but that's a problem for a future video. I have also created a custom pathway network that goes alongside the railroad and also the collector, and pretty much serves this entire area. The pathways go behind the telecom tower and also the industrial buildings, and connect over here with the pathways that compose the natural park, and eventually lead to this junction where it connects to a tunnel that provides access to the other side. This is the first of 2 pedestrian pathways that I've built to connect both sides of the railroad. And as you can see, we have already a lot of people using them. Now that we're at it, we can take a look at the second one, which is this one on the other hand of the train station. Instead of a underpass, here I have a small bridge. And like the previous one, is being used extensively by the people. I've also worked a bit on the vegetation of Leopold Park. I do not dislike what I had previously, but I always imagined this area as kind of a forest. And with what we had before, I think it was too sparse. So trees were spread from each other a bit more than I would have liked. With this, now we have some clusters of trees with very dense and compact spots, and also some open areas. Moving towards the eastern side of the train station, so the other side of the railroad, I took advantage of this opportunity to finish up this area because I kinda left it incomplete when I moved to the Leopold Park, and I finally got around to work on this. Starting with the lowest end, this is one end of the tunnel, the pedestrian pathway. Oh, and look at this, it seems that we have a factory with an ugly chimney. This is exactly what we do not want, and in these particular cases, I think I wanna do something like this, make it a bit shorter and bulldoze it and let some smaller assets spawn, and that should take care of the ugly chimneys. As I was saying, starting from this end, I've provided a connection to this roundabout, and the pathway extends towards this area and goes up the hill and eventually provides access to the urban complex on the high school. I was not really sure on what to do with this empty space between both avenues, but I have made up my mind and I've created a custom park here. I think it turned out really, really cool with these bushes outlining the avenues, and then these custom assets that I've placed. So we have a fountain, a gazebo, and then some food carts, and also some chairs, some benches, and also some picnic blankets as well. I worked a lot on the vegetation, so I've placed a bunch of trees, but at the same time I've left some empty areas so that people can stretch out and perhaps play some sports. On this side, between the railroad and the avenue, and on the back side of the bus station, I have built these This is a small commercial block with some department stores and a pedestrian-only street. It works for the time being, but it looks a bit bland, so perhaps I can detail it a bit more in the future. Over here we have yet another unique building. This thing is the Principes, again providing some buffs for the city, particularly with the crime rate, which sounds quite fitting because this is a commercial area after all. I've used the surface painter to extend the grass of this building towards the road so that it looks seamless, and I use the line tool to create this line of bushes that perfectly outline this entire building, and that makes it fit much better. Speaking of roads, you probably have already seen this road, this pink lane, which is a bus-only lane, even though we see some cars using it, because they're outlaws and they don't respect the rules of the city. But I've done this in preparation for when we set up a public transport network in the city. At the moment everything is disabled and we have no buses in the city. But when we have some dedicated lanes that will bring the buses from this bus station all the way across this district, all the way over here to this park. So I did not lose any lanes. We still have one lane going on each side, but this is an asymmetric 3-lane road now with a dedicated bus lane. This is only going one way. The other lane that I've built is over here, and it comes on this direction, so it kind of flows like this. Now, and perhaps I can complete the loop later on and make it continue over here, and perhaps you can make a circular bus network that will look really cool, and perhaps it will be very effective as well. Other than that, I've just adjusted this layout a little bit more. I've built this perpendicular road so that we don't have too many intersections with this main collector here. We have this main intersection and also an intersection here with the bus lanes, but that doesn't create a lot of traffic, I suppose. And this allowed me to make a strip of offices here, and on this side we placed the commercial buildings. So this is kind of a nice transition between the residential area and also the office and commercial area as well. Then on this side further on, this is just temporary. I don't really like how it looks, but I've pretty much zoned everything with offices just so we would provide jobs for the people here. But it looks a bit too bland, so I'm gonna mix in perhaps some factories and also some high density commercial as well to make this area much more interesting. So that's what I've done. I'm really happy with the outcome of what we've built in this video. One last thing before wrapping this video up. I've left this thing blank, and I mentioned I wanted to reserve this area for a city hall, so perhaps we can do that right now. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure if this building fits there, but there is only one way to find out. So let's unlock everything and let's see if it's big enough for it. Oh yeah, there we go, look at it. And that's already providing some buffs for the city, but we can upgrade it further with the city planning offices and also with the city court, which helps with crime. I want a better entrance for this building, so perhaps we can scoot it back a bit, like this. And relocating this thing costs a lot of money, but that's fine because we can afford it, we're rich now. Now let's build a simple entrance to this thing. Something like this, I think. Let's just put some trees in it. And now we can rotate this thing again and make it face this area. It's not perfectly centered with this, and that's annoying me a little bit. And I don't know why that's happening. Maybe I'll have to rebuild the roads to make sure that everything falls into place. Alright, so I think this is quite acceptable for the time being. I've placed a row of trees outlining the entire thing, and I've also placed some flowers and also some flower bushes in the middle of the roundabout. But in the future perhaps we can place some trees over here in the middle, some palm trees or something like that to make it look better. But overall I think that's gonna be it for today, guys. Quite a lot of progress in this video. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I also hope to see you on the next video. Until then, take care, guys.